We are going to make a video right now.
Okay.
Me and you.
Okay.
Okay? Say hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
What's up, guys? One and only Rob. I figured I would give you guys a little insight on me, a little personal life, let you guys in, see if you guys can relate. Anybody can. That would be great. If you guys can relate to this, man, give me a thumbs up. Leave comments down below. Tell me about your life. I would like to know. Maybe I'll even give some advice out, maybe on some videos of how I ended up dealing with some stuff. This is what's going on with me. I could start from the beginning, and it all kind of ties into this point in time. When I was 5 years old, my father was a truck driver, and he ended up going over the road. But he ended up leaving. Like he didn't just go over the road and show up, every once a month or once every 2 months or something. He ended up just bailing on his family. It's me and my 3 older sisters, 1 half sister, which is the oldest, and then there's my 2 full-blooded sisters, which are the 2 middle. I'm the youngest, and he just left the family. Well, because of that, he wasn't supporting his family. We ended up having to live with my great-grandma and my great-grandpa. It was my mom's parents, but I called them grandma, grandpa, because she called them mom and dad, because my mom was adopted by them, whatever. And we were very poor. The house that we lived in was just the square brick house. It had no insulation. The only thing we did have for heat was this little itty-bitty brown pilot stove. It was kind of like a space heater, but it was bolted to the ground, and it had a flue that went up to the top of the roof, and it was actual fire that you burned in there. And it was gas powered, but you had to light the pilot every time. It didn't just kick on automatically. There was no thermostat. You had to adjust it manually. And in the wintertime, we would just all sit around this brown stove that sounded like freaking aluminum cans when it was heating up. It just kept making noises, and that's how we kept warm in the wintertime. In the summertime, our swamp cooler, every year we'd have to just rebuild the swamp cooler, and there was only one vent that came out for the whole house to be cool. So the only part of the house that was cool was the living room, and all the bedrooms were add-ons, but they were add-ons made out of plywood. And there was, again, no insulation. And I remember my bedroom was just a bedroom, and it had a very, very small window. But when you look out the window, you see the interstate, and I was right next to the highway. So sleeping at nighttime, to me, I loved it, because the sound of the 18-wheelers driving by on the highway just put me to sleep like a baby. I went to middle school. I made some friends. A couple of kids my age ended up moving into this big plot of desert land, and they became really good friends of mine. You miss friends from back in the day, And then that land ended up having to... Okay, I'm going to pause that. I'll go back a little bit. My mom had a boyfriend for a short amount of time. His name was Perry. And he was a little bit older than my mother at the time. And this guy looked exactly like Santa Claus. But that guy, man, he took me everywhere. He picked me up in his little Datsun truck. And he was the closest thing I think I had to a dad that took me places. I mean, he always looked forward to taking me to go camping. We went camping, we went fishing. I mean, you name it, we did it. And that was the guy I did it with. Well, it was an Easter Sunday. He passed away. And that was the worst Easter. So imagine, if you will, every Easter that I have, I put it in the back of my head because of the current people I'm with. I don't want to make it about me. I let my feelings, I'll deal with that later. But every Easter, I think of him. And then I don't know if it was my grandma passed away before he did. I think my grandmother did pass away before he did. But she passed away on Mother's Day. And every Mother's Day, I have to think about that. About every Mother's Day, my grandma passed away on this day. However many years ago. I didn't know her that well, so I couldn't really be sad. Life goes on. My mother ended up meeting some guy. He kind of was a stepdad, but I never considered him a stepdad. I considered him my mom's boyfriend. That's how I always titled him. I never even called him dad. I called him by his first name. But he did do some cool things with me, because before Perry died, he was in the picture. They ended up getting, I got a go-kart, I got a mini bike, and you know, that's how I learned how to ride. I was young, and I remember one time my mom's current boyfriend at the time, he ended up tuning down my mini bike, but then Perry, the guy that looked like Santa Claus, ended up tuning up the mini bike, and it had too much horsepower. It was only like 2.5 horsepower, but I mean, I think I was like 6, and I ended up crashing this thing hard. I ran right into a fence. I'm like, this is coming at me very quick. And the brakes sucked, because it was just like a bar on the foot peg. And then you push the bar down, and it just takes this piece of metal and it pushes the metal back onto the tire. And that's your brake, which there's no traction. Like you slowly slow down. Like the only way I really ever was to get the thing to slam on the brakes if I lowered the tire air pressure and I slammed on it, and then it ended up catching the tire and like halfway flat, and then it just stopped the tire because it binded it, I guess. But that was a little trick I learned further down the road. A little time goes on, you know, I'm driving my go-kart through the deserts, and I ended up riding my go-kart until the wheels fell off. And I'm not even lying, literally a wheel fell off and I didn't even know it. It was the right front wheel. I'm driving it right next to me on the dirt bike, and then I stop, and then all of a sudden when I stop, the go-kart went and it drops to the front. I'm like, what in the world? The wheel's gone. So he went looking for the wheel, but we couldn't find it. So I was like, you know what? Oh, I got it here without even knowing that the wheel was gone. So let's just ride it back home. So I turn around, and again, I'm like 6'7", 7 or 8, and I'm riding this go-kart through the desert, doing about 40 miles an hour on 3 wheels. And you know, it was fun times. You know, my younger childhood was decent. It wasn't bad. I was poor, you know, but it wasn't too bad. For a poor kid, I think it was okay. But it wasn't until my teenage years I started to feel like resentment because my father, I didn't know my father, and it got a little crazy. It goes on for a little bit, but my mom's boyfriend, the current one that I said I'm not going to mention his name, he ended up I thought he was trying to kill my mom. There's a few times where, I was working at the time. I was 16, 17 years old. I might have been 18. I don't quite remember. But I was working at a coffee exchange. My girlfriend was working there, which is my current wife. One night they had me close and then open the next morning, which I would have gotten off at 1 o'clock and then had to have been there at 4, which I'm like, no, you guys, I'm not doing that. I went to go call in, and they're like, if you call in, you're getting fired. And I'm like, well, screw this. So I went home, tried to go to sleep, and my mom's boyfriend is drunk off of his ass, and he's screaming her name at the top of his lungs. And all I do is walk out there and I go, hey dude, can you be quiet? I have to work in like 3.5 to 4 hours. I'm trying to get a little bit of a nap, but you, sir, are preventing me from doing this. He gets up and he starts to charge at me, and I don't know how exactly I did it. All I know is he ended up going over my head. I slammed him to the ground. I put him in a chokehold, and I started punching his face. And my mom heard the noise, and she called the cops, and he was arrested, and my mom got mad at me for beating the crap out of her boyfriend. This happens a few times. I was never arrested. And you know, there's so many stories. I mean, I could tell you guys so much. If you guys want to know, just leave comments and I'll make, additional videos to this video. But my mom kicked me out because of that. I was homeless for like, I don't know, a few weeks or something. And then I move in with my sister at, man, this timeline's so screwy, because my mom kicked me out before I met my girlfriend. So this was when I was younger, 16 years old, because I moved in with my sister. I got a job at a fast food restaurant, and then I ended up seeing this girl, which was sexy as hell, and she still is to this day, and that's my current wife. But I went to middle school with her, and I got her number, and I called her, and we started talking, and we started dating, and we've been with each other every day for the past 11 years. Well, minus a week. She had to go to a different city to work for her company, and, you know, it's whatever. So my sister and I didn't get along too well. We got into a fight or something. I don't remember. Something stupid. She kicked me out. So I moved back with my mom, and then again a fight happened, and I got kicked out of my mom's house. And then I moved in with my girlfriend's parents, and her mom didn't really like it. So we ended up getting our own apartment, and life was hard because, I was a mechanic for a couple of years. I went to a couple of other shops because they paid me like $1 extra. Like at the time, I was leaving every job for $1 more an hour. That's how much money meant to me. So years go on. I ended up getting fired from a Jiffy Lube. And it wasn't because it was a criminal thing, or it wasn't because it was anything I did. It was because an employee that worked there didn't like the fact that I stepped in as lead supervisor, and he wanted the job, and he's been there for like 17 years because he has no fucking life. And he sabotaged me. That's another story. If you guys want to hear about it, again, I'll make another video. Leave comments down below for the requested video. I'll make videos. Okay? I will tell you guys these stories. Okay, so I get fired. I was jobless for a little while. I was claiming unemployment. While I was claiming unemployment, I ended up working for this company as a tow truck driver. I stopped claiming unemployment after that, of course. Became a tow truck driver. Absolutely loved driving a tow truck. It was the funnest thing I've ever done. I was like, I love this. It's out on the road. I'm driving. It's fun. I can operate this truck like nothing. Well, from there, he wasn't paying me enough, and, you know, he wanted me to do a lot more things. Again, a whole other story, maybe another video. Leave your comment. I'll tell you the story about my tow trucking days. There's a lot of funny shit that happened. I could tell you about how a girl tried to pay me by showing me her. Yeah, that was funny. I ended up working for a mall here in Tucson, and I was a mall cop, and that was a fun job. But then I was thinking I wanted to go to the military. My wife said no. Don't do that. And I was like, well, I want to do something before we have kids, you know, so maybe I could become a truck driver. She's like, no, don't do that. Her father was in the military. He was in Desert Storm, and he was gone for a long time, and she hated it. And I understood it. I could relate to her because my dad was always gone. I'd never seen my dad. And we had our son, which he's now 4 years old. And from there, I was like, I need to get a new job. This job's not paying me well enough. I started working for a school district here in Tucson, driving school buses. I got my CDL. It was a fun job. I loved it. I loved every single minute of it. You know, the bad parts were traffic. You know, again, more stories. If you guys want to hear about it, leave comments. They weren't paying me all year round, and I couldn't afford it. So I basically left this company because they weren't paying me 12 months of the year. They were only paying me 9. And if you do the math, the amount of money I was getting paid to the amount of money I was getting paid at the other place, I was getting paid more at the security job. So I ended up working at another security job, which I'm working at now, and the pay there is not that good either. And I'm like, you know what? Meanwhile, while I'm doing this, my wife's like, why don't you go to school and get an education and all this? So I'm like, fine, I'll go to school. I'll get an education. And that's exactly what I did. I got an associate's degree, and it's not doing anything. It's like an associate's degree is kind of like a GED now, I guess. And I don't have the money to fork over to get a bachelor's or the time even. So I have to do a drastic change, and I have to become a truck driver, which is something I wanted to do, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, but my wife said no. Now I got to be a truck driver, and I got to leave my son, I got to leave my wife for a while, and it's hard, and the only thing I fear is, it's like, am I following my father's footsteps? But I'm not following my father's footsteps because I'm doing it because I want to provide for my family. That is my life in a nutshell. Like I said, there's a whole ton of other stories. I'm not going to go in a huge tangent and tell you every little detail, but I could if you guys wanted to know. Leave your comments down below if you guys want to hear other little stories. I could do videos on stories, which is, I don't mind it. I love telling my stories. It's great. It's kind of a long story. I apologize for this long video if it is long. I'm going to try and edit as much of it out as I can, but leave a like. Leave comments down below if you can relate to anything like this, any advice you guys have, any advice you guys want, and whatever, you know, I'm here. I'm on my channel, and this is what I do, so, and I do it for fun. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching the video, and until I see you again, I'll see you on the next one. One only Rob.